Update. Hospitalized mother who took my cheating wife's side over mine now wants to see me. Original story. So last night, my wife of 7 years decided to have a chill-out night. After dinner, she went to the den and was watching her programs, while I flitted between watching the Spur football game and doing some odds and ends that I had planned. Next thing I know, she's got the wine out and has had 2 bottles of the stuff. At around midnight, I went to check on her and seen she was out cold on the couch. So I went to scoop her up when her iWatch thing buzzed and a message popped up on the screen. It said something along the lines of, "Haha, I can't do that. I hope you would knock the 7 shades of crap out of me." I wondered what the hell that was all about. So I pressed on it, and it was a conversation between my wife and a friend of mine. Now, I wouldn't say this guy's a close friend of mine, but he's someone I've played 5-a-sides with for years, drank with, and have known since we were teenagers. We used to call him Jacket Holder because when we got into scraps as teens, he'd always be the guy holding the jackets while everyone else went for it. Right, so as I said, I pushed on a conversation while this thing is still attached to her wrist and scroll up to the top. And as far as I can tell, it's him that contacts her first, unless she has deleted. There's lots of flirting and wink-winking going on, but nothing that you could outright say was cheating. Then I get to last night, and when she's drunk, she starts openly begging him for action. I couldn't believe my freaking eyes. I'm paraphrasing here because I can't remember the exact words, but she was saying stuff like how much she had always wanted him, how no one would ever find out if he did want to do something. And the last one that freaking killed me? That she was great at keeping secrets. I tried to scroll on her watch but couldn't find any other messages, and I don't know her phone passcode. I put her in her bed and just sat in the kitchen in shock until I fell asleep. Then got up for work about 5:30. When I went to get in my work van, I just slumped down on the wheel and realized I couldn't face it. So I went back in the house, grabbed a half-drunk bottle of vodka, filled to the top with Coke, and went on a way down the railway line. We live beside a lot of woodland, and a disused railway line that goes for miles, and I've walked about half the length of it. I'm sitting under a railway bridge like a freaking troll right now, just seething at the whole thing. You'd probably think there's a fire going from about a mile away due to the steam coming out of my ears. So what do? I don't want to speak to her. I can't even bear to look at her after reading that crap. It was like a dagger through my heart. I just feel like every morsel of love I had for her has evaporated into thin air after reading her begging like that. Freaking yuck. I honestly want to ghost her, man. If I could, I would never speak to her again. The whole "I'm great at keeping secrets" was the thing that really got me though. Like, who even are you? It reeks, but it's a case of how far down the rabbit hole do I want to go. I don't care if I'm being honest. I'm just done. I've never felt so betrayed and disgusted in all my life. The thing is, I've invested so much in her not just as a partner, but as a person. I loved her so much. I thought her personality, and by extension my personality, reflected that of good people. To realize she's a backstabbing snake makes me feel like a snake. I feel like a worse person than I was yesterday. The only way I can describe it is for someone you looked up to, took advice and life lessons from, to suddenly find out they were a pedo or violator or just a downright creep. Your entire perception of yourself and who you are would be shattered because you've took on board what they've said and invested time to a creep. God, I'm rambling nonsense. I apologize. I'm lucky that our house is owned by my parents, who 6 years ago moved to a retirement village and we moved in. The house will be bequeathed to me when they die, but I don't and hopefully won't own it for a long time. They couldn't be bothered with the upkeep and all the problems, etc., and wanted to see out their final days in peace, so when we do divorce, my soon-to-be ex won't be getting her hands on it. So what do I do then? I'm honestly thinking of just not saying a word and throwing her right out. Also, while walking here, it went through my mind to get my mate who's a locksmith to quietly change the locks today. I could feed her any old garbage about something from the doors being broken. She won't care what's going on anyways, as long as I'm about. Then after he's done, lock the front door and tell her to come out and look at something out the back. When she comes out, just run back in and lock the door behind me. That sounds childish as hell, doesn't it? Ugh. Seriously though, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm staring at a bottle right now and my life feels like it has been ripped apart at the seams. As for that prick so-called friend of mine, there's no doubt he was up to something here. But there's also no doubt I wouldn't have caught wind of this at all, so I'll be seeing him very soon. Never mind holding jackets, he'll be holding his face. First update, October 28, 2020. Thank you everyone who reached out to me after my first post. It was really appreciated. So yesterday, after I had written the post and was in a complete mess, 2 dog walkers came over to check on me as I was obviously concerning them. I told them everything. They listened, and the first thing one of them said to me was, "Son, the worst thing you can do right now is drink. It'll cause carnage." I have to thank her for that because I was on a highway to hell at that point. I threw the vodka away, got in touch with a friend, and decided I could come to his for a while to calm down. He was at work, but told me where the spare key was. We live in a small town of around 15,000 people, and it wasn't too far away. So once I got there, I sat on his couch, just trying to calm down. Throughout the morning, I was getting multiple texts and phone calls from my wife asking where I was and what the hell was up, as my work van was still sitting in the driveway and I was nowhere to be seen. I texted her back telling her that there was a problem with the engine. So I got a lift into work, which she seemed to buy, as she just texted back saying okay. When my friend got back from his work at about 5 o'clock, I told him everything that had happened and asked him his opinion. I also told him not to tell anyone about jacket holder, as that might then get back to my wife, which I didn't want at this point. I would deal with him later. By that I mean I'll expose what a little rat he is. Knocking crap out of him doesn't help me at all as of now. As an aside to the people saying he'd done nothing wrong, he messaged my wife first. He was being extremely flirty. What the hell is he even playing at messaging my wife for in the first place? He only knows her in passing, from afar. Look, I've got no problem with 2 adults conversing with each other, but they hardly knew each other, and it was flirty from the start, as far as I could tell. I think they've seen each other while out and about, and it's gotten flirty then. So my friend convinced me to try and keep a low profile, and see what I could dig up, but at the same time speak to a lawyer and get the ball rolling in terms of finding out my options, which I have done today. He took me home about 6 o'clock and I was honestly dead on my feet by that point. I think the adrenaline pumping the entire day then suddenly stopping knocks it right out of you, so I was extremely tired when I got home. The second I walked through the door, I knew something was up, as my wife was on me right away asking me all sorts of questions about work. I asked her why does she even care, and she said that I left my big flask and my lunch bag in the front passenger side seat, and something's been up today, she could feel it. I was about to lie, but I was just too tired. I couldn't be bothered putting any sort of charade up. So I said, yeah, there is something up. That when I was putting her drunken butt to bed last night, a message came up on her iWatch, which I read, and all the other ones. That she was a freaking disgusting cheat that I wanted nothing more to do with. Her demeanor went from an arms-crossed person in power to scared little girl within about a second. Good at keeping secrets, eh? Begging that little rat for action, eh? Yep, read it all. She started sobbing and I just walked away and upstairs into the shower. When I got out, she was sitting on the top stair crying still, and the excuses started right away. How she was drunk, vulnerable, had never done anything like that before, how he had messaged her first and it didn't mean anything, and that she was never going to go through with it. Pretty much everything that everyone on here was saying she would say, like she had a playbook out. The only thing she didn't do was try and blame me. She probably knew I would have thrown her right out the door if she had tried that crap. I told her that I wanted a divorce and her out of the house within a month. I also told her that she was moving to the spare room. I've been pretty much ignoring her ever since, just scowling at her and shaking my head when she starts waffling nonsense as I don't want to hear it. She slept in the spare room last night, and I haven't spoken to or texted with her at all today. If I'm lucky, maybe she'll be gone when I get back from work. But my luck's not that good, I suppose. And getting her out, though, I was telling my parents what was happening today, and my mother was adamant I wasn't throwing her out onto the streets. Her and my mother are close, and always have been. Would have been together 11 years in December. My mother was saying she made a mistake, and that we should sort it out like adults. That we've been through too much together, and that she didn't actually do anything. It was just words. She completely took her side over mine. Couldn't believe it. Could this mess me here? Like, do I have no right to ask her to leave if my mother is against it? It's literally gonna be my house when my parents pass and I did nothing wrong. So I'm not leaving. It's probably gonna turn into War of the Roses Part 2. I managed to get myself an appointment with a divorce lawyer for next week, so I'll be going to that to discuss my options. Until then, I'm just gonna ignore my soon-to-be ex-wife, I guess. I know she's probably not gonna admit anything else now. I'll never know if she was a really good liar, or she was just talking crap to him to get him on side with her for an affair. Anyways, sorry about the delay in the update. Just got the chance to write it now as I'm finishing work. Well, back to the funhouse, I guess. Second update, December 2, 2020. Monday, 16th November. Hi. I thought I'd give an update since a lot of people have been personally messaging me asking for one. It's now been 20 days since I found out my wife was trying to cheat on me with my friend, and the situation has become hellish. I gave her a month to get out, and she's been sleeping in a spare room, but it's clear now she doesn't have any intention of going away after she got in the ear of my mother. She doesn't have anywhere to go at any rate, but that's not my problem. I've seen my divorce lawyer multiple times, and I'm now in the process of drawing up a divorce petition and having my wife served divorce papers. I've also opened my own bank account and taken 50% of the balance from our shared account. The atmosphere around the house has been weird to say the least. The living room has turned into a no man's land where no one frequents, as we both spend a majority of our times in our rooms. I've also intentionally been working late a lot, so I don't have to interact with her much. I had been completely ignoring her, but after reading about the 180, I've started implementing that and been civil, if a little cold towards her. I'm so glad I did this, as I was beginning to feel like a monster refusing to acknowledge her existence. It was not the right way to behave, and I ended up feeling like the one who had wronged her, rather than the other way around. The only time I broke from the 180 was when I walked into the bathroom last week and she was sitting on the floor by the bath crying. I helped her up and instinctively gave her a hug, though it was more of a there type hug than one with much love attached to it. The sad thing is that I'm so suspicious of her now that I wouldn't put it past her to be waiting on me coming in so she could put on a performance. The thing is, that probably isn't even true. But this is the sort of crap that's going through my head in this environment. It's just toxic. She's been crowing about how she'll do anything and everything to save this marriage. Anything to prove to me that it was just a silly mistake. So I brought up a lie detector test. I don't plan on ever getting one done. Wouldn't even know where to start. I just wanted to gauge her reaction. She was all for it. Well, until a few hours later when she came to me, tablet in hand, going on about how inaccurate they are, and that anxiety and nervousness can throw up false readings. And with her and her anxiety disorder and all. I just laughed. Wasn't even a small chuckle either. It started as a bit of a cackle and ended in a childish giggle. It appears she would do everything to save this marriage. Well, everything except take a lie detector test, that is. It doesn't even matter anyway. I meant what I said in my original post. Every morsel of love I had for her dissipated into the atmosphere after I heard her say those horrible things. I don't see her as my true love anymore. The person I could tell anything to and would trust with my life. I just see trash. Trash that needs taken out before it stinks the place up. Jacket holder has been the talk of the town since I exposed him to our friend group a few weeks back. It's safe to say he has no friends left among us. It has been completely ostracized. I tried phoning him a few times, but he refused to answer, then blocked my number. Screw that little rat. I hope it was worth it. I've spoken to my mother multiple times about this, and during a heated argument asked her why she was taking my wife's side. Was there something she wasn't telling me here? What was she expecting? Us to live like roommates? Go on like nothing happened? It's ridiculous. She said she has always seen my wife as the daughter she never had but always wanted. My mother had a stillborn daughter before I was born, and it has hunted her. So she latched onto my wife and has done since we got together. As I said previously, they have a close bond. The fact my wife doesn't have any family and only a few friends who have their own busy lives and families means if I throw her out, she would be all alone. And my mom thinks that's unacceptable, especially during a pandemic. She tried to get me to come to a compromise, saying that in 3 or 4 months we can look at it again and see where we are mentally, and is pushing me to try couples counseling before I throw in the towel. I'm not doing that. The thought of being in the same house as my wife over Christmas makes me feel ill. She'll want to do it right as she does every year, and it'll be a complete crap show. My dad, God love him, has never been much of a talker. Never up nor down, just always there. He's a quiet, proud but timid man, and my mother's word has always been the one that matters in our house. People on here have been telling me that I'm selfish and spoiled because it's not my house and I have no right to make demands. But it's now a case of my wife or me for my parents. If worst comes to worst, Then I'm ready to walk out the door and never come back. Screw this house. I have to be able to look at myself in the mirror with some semblance of self-respect, and someone has to keep their word in this debacle. If I do leave, my friend has said I can stay with him for a few weeks or so till I get myself sorted. If I do walk out that door though, I'm done with my parents. I'll never speak to them again in my life. They'll probably see it as me giving up on them, me walking away without trying to at least have a go at fixing things first. I see it as them choosing someone who broke my heart over me. Like, what will be the logistics of this once I'm gone? Just her staying there herself, my mother and father looking after a backstabber while their flesh and blood goes off alone? A little more info on the house. My parents let us move in a year after our wedding. It was a parent belated wedding gift, although that was just the chatter from them at the time. They were always planning on moving out and moving us in. I've spent tens of thousands on it over the years, but that's neither here nor there. I have fantasies of leaving this all behind, going somewhere new and starting again, but I don't have anywhere else to go. I've lived in this town my entire life. It's all I know. Am I being too harsh here? I'm literally ready to slingshot my parents right out of my life, but I feel so torn. Why am I the one who had to lose everything and everyone? I've tried to be good, but I always thought you make your own luck, that good things happen to good people. Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Maybe I deserve all I freaking get. Wednesday, December 2nd. Well, since this morning, I no longer call that house home. I see on a calendar that my wife had a hospital appointment with her ophthalmologist, so knowing she would be gone for a few hours, I took that as an opportunity to get my stuff together and move out, which I have. After getting my things moved and sorted, I just put the house keys on the kitchen table, along with the divorce papers I received from the divorce lawyer last week, and was on my way. I've blocked both my wife and mother's numbers, and any communication I have with my wife going forward will be done through my lawyer. In terms of my living situation, I'm staying with a friend for a week or two, but hopefully I should be in my own rented place before Christmas. I haven't spoken to my parents in a few weeks. Last time we spoke was via text, and I tried to tell my mother in explicit detail the things my wife was saying during her text to jacket holder. Why it hurt me so much, and why I didn't think it was her first time doing it with the whole "I'm good at keeping secrets" comment, and thus could never trust her again. My mother texted back saying she couldn't speak to me when I was like this, and she would let me cool off. She tried to phone me a few days ago, and I just blanked her call. It has said a bit further up since today I have blocked her number. I feel so let down by my parents, and at this point, it almost feels worse than the original betrayal for my wife. The way I'm feeling right now, I don't think I'll ever speak to them again. I think in times of strife, you look to your family to be strong for you, to be a rock and give you, the wronged one, support. My parents have been weak. They've made me feel like the one in the wrong, like I'm overreacting, and it's me that's ripping this family apart. Well, it's not. I didn't ask them to move mountains for me, just move my cheating wife out of the house, and they made their choice. My father also had a choice to put his foot down for once in his life and stand up for me, but didn't. You make your choices and you live with them, I guess. Reading some of the comments on here from my previous posts, people have been saying things like, I threw in the towel so easily. I was looking for a way out and didn't love my wife because I didn't try hard enough to save things. But that's not true. I loved my wife more than anyone on this earth, and I was broken when I discovered what she was doing. I think we all have boundaries, and once those boundaries have been crossed, things change irrevocably. When I read those horrible texts, something changed inside of me. I fell out of love with her, like being snapped out of a spell in the movies. Anything tried after that is just delaying the inevitable. I have to say that I'm interested in the whole dynamic of their relationship now that I'm gone. Like, are my parents gonna continue supporting her knowing that it has finished their relationship with their son? As for me, I'd love to travel. My wife hated flying, so most of our holidays had been to southern England, the likes of Newquay and Torquay and Cornwall and Devon, so it would be great to travel abroad again. The last time I was abroad was when I was 20 for a mate's holiday in Greece, so 13 years ago. I'd love to see a bit of America, so once this pandemic comes down, I've definitely got my sights on the States. Well, that's about it for me, guys. This'll be my last post as I don't want to outstay my welcome, and I don't think there's much more to say at any rate. If you want to see how I'm doing down the line, shoot me a DM and I'll try to keep you in the loop. Thanks for reading. Third update, May 26, 2021. It's been over 7 months since I first posted on Reddit, and I honestly thought that was it for me as I didn't need any more advice. I had made my decisions and done what I said I would, but I got a phone call this morning that has dragged me back into the mire. I have moved 15 miles away, changed my phone number, and I'm still in the process of divorcing my wife. She has completely ignored all the requests from my divorce lawyer to cooperate, which has hindered things. We're now in the process of putting in an application for deemed service, so she will be served officially by the courts. And if she continues to ignore, then I can proceed with the divorce without her input. Well, this morning while at work, I got a phone call from my friend telling me that my dad was trying to get in touch as my mother's not well, and would it be okay if he gave him my number. I said okay, and my dad phoned to tell me my mom is in the hospital. She's stable, but not great. Obviously, I was shocked, as I've not heard my dad's voice for so long. It was also the most emotional I've ever heard him. He told me my mom really wants to see me, so would I meet him at the hospital tonight and go in and see her with him? I said okay, and have arranged to meet him outside the hospital. I ended up going home from work as I couldn't concentrate, and I'm climbing the walls here wondering if I made the right decision. Wondering if I'm about to get dragged back into the scrap show that I walked away from. I've never felt so nervous in my life, and the lack of control I have over the situation has sent my mind spiraling in lots of different directions. I feel like I'm walking into a burning building blindfolded, with no idea where the exits are. Why does she want to speak to me now? Has she had a change of heart? Unless she's also had a personality transplant while in there, I find that unlikely. Will my wife be there? I have no interest in never seeing her again. I'm still angry about what transpired with them, and the way they took my cheating wife's side over mine. I've been going back and forth in my head about going at all, but I will go. I was also thinking about maybe seeing if she wanted to speak over the phone instead, but not sure if she would do that or even if she's well enough. I feel like the bad guy here, and that I might have caused this from walking away. How would you handle this? Any advice would be appreciated. Fourth update, May 29, 2021. So I ended up going to the hospital on Wednesday night after much toing and froing. I was genuinely about to back out the last minute as I felt my bottle crashing. But I needed some closure, and knew that I wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't go and something happened. When I drove into the hospital car park, I had this surreal feeling of extreme paranoia and was half expecting my wife to jump out from behind a bush or something. I met my dad at the entrance, and it was pretty awkward as he tried to hug me and I said no. I then said if my wife is here in any way, shape or form, then I am about turning it out the door. He assured me she wasn't, and we made our way to the ward where Mom was. When I see my mother, I got the fright of my life as she looked like she had been in the wars. Never have I seen her look so frail. She's got an extreme black eye, also a lot of bruising and purple/yellowness down one side of her face. She took a serious fall, broke 2 ribs, shattered her elbow and banged one side of her head/face on the ground. So elbow, ribs, then head in that order. She looked zombified, but perked up when she seen me. She told me how much she's missed me, and that she wasn't sure she'd ever see me again. I told her if she had really wanted to get a hold of me, she could have done. We spoke for a bit about what exactly had happened, and how she was down for a few hours before my dad found her. Also that she was determined to get back to normal and mend bridges with me. I brought up my wife, and that I had been pushing for a divorce, but she was either ignoring the letters or wasn't getting them. So I asked if she's still in the house. Mom admitted she was, and Dad started to look uncomfortable. I just looked away in disgust. Mom started saying how lost my wife is without me, and that she's not in a good way. I knew then that nothing will change. She's not had an epiphany or seeing things from a new perspective. She just wants the status quo back. She said that the house is my home and always will be, but I told her I don't want it. It means nothing to me anymore, and all it holds is a lot of bad memories. I stayed for under an hour all in all, and when I left, I said if I want to get in contact I will, but don't be waiting over the phone for me to call as you might be waiting for a while. When Dad walked me out, he asked if I would keep in touch with him, and I said I would. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. Time will tell. When I got home, my emotions were a bit all over the place. From sadness to anger, but I'm glad I went. Couldn't help think about my wife as well, and what she once meant to me. It'll never not hurt. When I think about everything that's happened in the last 7 months, it honestly doesn't feel real. The speed at which everything fell apart was just spellbinding. I know life comes at you fast, especially when you're not paying attention, and I wasn't paying attention. It was just sheer luck I found out about her trying to cheat on me. Cosmic coincidence, nothing more. I never seen the signs or put everything together. I just saw something on her watch and it tore my freaking life apart. I know now that it wasn't the only time. I know it in my heart. I see what she is and feel no love for her, only contempt. I feel she stole the best years of my life. When I think about all the good times, they're just soured. It feels like someone else's life, not mine. My friend was saying I should see a therapist or something to try and let everything out, or else this will fundamentally change who I am and the way I build relationships going forward. That's something I'm going to do, I think, as I do feel a bit broken inside. The last 6+ months have been the worst of my life, but I'd rather they happen than being kept in the dark. I'm just sad that it happened the way it did, but you can't choose the way someone screws you over, I suppose. You just have to learn from it. I remember reading about loyalty being the most undervalued character trait, and I see that now. Probably because you don't really know if someone is truly loyal to you until, well, they're not. It's not something you deal with every day, but now more than ever, I know how important a trait it is. Now for the final update, July 2021. Firstly, I'm now in the home straight in terms of divorce from my wife. She has signed the divorce papers, and now all that's left are the formalities. She sent me a message via my dad where she said she's sorry for not letting me move on, that she thought she could save things, but now she knows she can't, and she has to move on for her own well-being. I thank her for seeing sense. She doesn't want anything in the divorce, and said she's going to move out the house when she can get on her feet, which I'm okay with. In terms of my mother, I haven't spoken to her yet, but my dad said she's doing a lot better after getting out of hospital and getting some normality back. I don't know how things will pan out with them, but I've said that if the house is going to be mine, then I want them to put it into my name now. To give me some security, then we can start trying to build bridges. We'll see how that goes. My biggest battle ahead is in my head, and trying to get over everything that's happened. The brain is a wonderful yet frightening thing. To give an example, I can still taste the truffles I scoffed, then threw up, at my grand's house when I was like 5. I've never ate truffles again, but I can still taste those freaking things 30 years later when I think about it. What I'm getting at is, I don't want to harbor thoughts, feelings, and opinions about everything that's happened 30 years down the road. I don't want to be one of those older people who's had everything good knocked out of them by the pain of life. You often hear about those people, how they used to be good, kind, or funny, but somewhere along the line they've had experiences that have forever changed them, turned them into a person they never wanted to be, and all that's left is pain. I don't want to be that person. I have to let this pain go before it consumes me. I have started therapy and spoken to a psychiatrist both over the phone and in person, and it has helped me a lot to speak candidly about everything, if only for a little while. My psychiatrist also said something to me that really struck a chord. When I was moaning about how my best years were behind me, she said, "Your best years are the years you've got left." What I think she meant is that past is gone. It doesn't exist, except in your mind. But the here and now does, and you can choose to make the most out of it, or live in a past that isn't real to anyone but you. It's definitely a phrase I'm going to try and remember when I feel down. I said in one of my previous posts that I wanted to travel, and that is finally happening. My friend has committed to come with me, and we've booked a flight to New York at the beginning of October for a week. Really looking forward to it. Always wanted to see New York when the leaves change. Reminds me of that movie You've Got Mail. I want this to be just the beginning of my adventures in terms of traveling. I want my latter 30s to be littered with memories from escapades I've had abroad. Well, that's the plan anyway. All I know is that for the first time in what seems like a long time, I'm waking up with hope in my heart and a spring in my step. If that's not progress, then I don't know what is.
Update. My ex, 26 male, dumped me in January after 9 years together because he didn't think I, 27 female, was wife material. Now he reached out wanting to talk because he needs to get something off his chest. I don't know why he doing this or if I should meet him. Original post. I was with my ex, who I'll call Nate, because if I'm being honest, minus betraying a friend, I was a Cassie. I don't want to go too much into the details, but for the last 9 years, I lost myself to Nate. He was my world. Everything I did was for him. I helped him through depression, helped get/keep his grades up, and even worked 2 jobs so he could focus on college when his parents disowned him for nearly 3 years because they didn't agree with the major or college he chose. Bear in mind, I was also a college student. When his parents started talking to him again and began to financially support him, we moved into a new apartment. Nate said he wanted me to quit my job. I didn't, because it was his turn to take care of me. For 16 months, everything was great. He spoiled me. Then I noticed he was more interested in his new friends. At times, he ignored me completely. Back in December, he did a 180 and love-bombed me the whole month. He really went out of his way to make Christmas magical for me. I honestly believed he was going to propose. On January 2nd, he made me my favorite dinner and gave this speech about me being his first love, how I'd been there since high school. I kept thinking, any minute now he's gonna ask me to marry him. But nope, he dumped me. As his speech went on, my world fell apart. And as much as he tried to sugarcoat it, he basically said, "You were a good girlfriend, but that's all you'll ever be to me, a girlfriend. I don't see you as my wife or the mother of my children, blah blah. You served your purpose. Now I don't need you anymore, blah blah. I need someone on my level, blah blah. You're a gold digger, blah blah. I'll give you 30 days to move out." I couldn't speak. He stared at me, looking for a response. I think this lasted 20 minutes before he said he'd sleep in the guest room, then left. Strangely, I didn't cry or get angry. I just ordered cardboard boxes online, then went to bed. The next day, I waited for him to leave the apartment before I left my room. Then I called my boss and asked, begged really, if I could transfer anywhere. She told me there wasn't anything, but if something came up in my department, she'd consider me. I then reached out to everyone I knew who wasn't also Nate's friend for a place to stay. My cousin invited me to stay in her spare room for as long as I needed, and I could move in straight away, which was amazing. In the 4 days it took me to pack my stuff and move out, I didn't see or speak to Nate. I doubt he even noticed. I didn't trust myself at the time to ignore a "you up" text, so I blocked him and everyone close to him. I even changed my number and email to make sure he couldn't reach me. The first night at my cousin's was the night everything hit me. I think I cried every night that first month. I honestly felt like crap. I thought about what Nate said over and over again. It made me feel so low, like I was nothing, that he only stayed with me because I was just there. But thankfully, my cousin sent for my mom, other cousins, and real friends to give me an intervention, which I badly needed. I believe that first month, I wouldn't have made it without my cousin. I'm still healing and waiting on the job transfer because I feel like if I'm not in the same city as Nate and I have a place of my own, the fresh start would do me a world of good. I thought by now I'd be a distant memory for Nate, but shockingly, he sent flowers to my job today for my birthday, which was on Sunday. Apparently, he even went to my parents' house looking for me. My mom admitted he's been there before, dropping off stuff and trying to ask questions about me, but they told him to get lost. The flowers came with a card saying, "Dear Cassie, happy belated birthday. I've been thinking about you nonstop for the last few months, especially with how everything ended. I need to get something off my chest that I feel will haunt me for the rest of my life if I don't tell you this to your face. But I have no way of contacting you. If it's possible, can we meet up in the near future? Nate." What could he want? What's haunting him that he needs to say to my face? Everyone in my life is telling me to ignore him, but they hate him. I'm torn, but I can't lie. My curiosity is telling me to meet him and see what he wants. Has anyone been in my shoes or in Nate's? Now for the top comments before reading the update. I just wanted to say, just because he needs to say something doesn't mean you need to hear it. I doubt it's anything that would add value to your life. He's likely wanting to alleviate guilt for some long ago trespass. My cousin thinks he tried to monkey branch and it didn't work out. Seems like he cheated on you back in December before the love bombing. Now, this dumb cheater is probably engaged to the affair partner, hence the wife material comment. Screw him. Let him implode that relationship just like he imploded yours. He's not a good human, and he's trying to make himself feel better about something. He doesn't deserve that, and he doesn't deserve your time or energy. You know what's pathetic? If he cheated and told me that was the reason he was breaking up with me, I don't think it'd have hurt me as much. Not the a-hole. Don't reply to him. Ghost him. Block him. Send the flowers back when they get delivered. He doesn't deserve you. Now for the update. So we ended up meeting. And no, I didn't go to him. I had told the receptionist at my work that if he came looking for me, just say I was out for the day. After he showed up once, I didn't want the drama of him around my job. So Nate just kept going to my usual places, like the grocery store I go to every Saturday evening or the park I run at on Sunday mornings, his words, until he would eventually run into me. And he did, yesterday. He was waiting at the coffee shop I go to after my morning run. When I saw him, I tried to turn around and leave, but he kept calling me. So I thought to myself, if everything goes pear-shaped, a coffee shop would be safer than my walk home. So I just sat down and asked him what he wanted. He gave an apology that wasn't an apology. You know, the type with, "I'm sorry but," and "pity me." He blamed his mental health, his job, his parents, his friends, everyone but himself. I took someone's advice on here and said, "Cut the crap. I already know everything." He genuinely looked shocked and stared at me for a second. I guess he thought his coworker already told me everything, so he couldn't lie. Here's what really happened. He fell for a girl in his office. When he told me her name, I knew her immediately. I've met her a few times. He told me that for the last 2 years, he idolized her. To be fair, she's beautiful with an amazing personality. And he hated me because I was the one stopping them from being together. His coworker was too classy to be a side piece. When he broke up with me, he confessed to her that he was madly in love and ended a 9-year relationship to be with her. Well, here's where it gets funny. She doesn't even like him. She called him a piece of trash and told him if he ever spoke to her outside work, she'd report him to HR. So I asked him what any of this had to do with me. Like, we are over. I clearly cut ties. There's no reason for us to speak. He wants to try again. Promised we'd get married before the year ends. Said we belong together. I told him no. I'm nobody's second choice. He threw me away after 9 years and said some pretty cruel things to me. And now he thinks if he snaps his fingers, I'll come running back. He tried to beg in fake tears, bringing up the good times in our relationship. I told him to please leave me alone, as he's already wasted too much of my time. I texted my cousin to meet me at the coffee shop. He kept saying nonsense. He even suggested that if I went to couples counseling for a few months, he'd leave me alone. The 20 minutes it took for my cousin to arrive felt like 20 years. In the end, I just stopped listening and stood at the counter making small talk with the baristas until my cousin arrived. She told him to buzz off, and if he tried to follow us, she'd call her brothers. He stayed in the coffee shop as far as I know, and we just went home. That's it. It's only been a day, but I feel like it's over, and I'm free of him. Girl, not the a-hole. You handled that like a queen. He threw away 9 years chasing a fantasy, got rejected, and thought you'd be waiting like a backup plan. Nah, you chose you, and I'm clapping for it. This has to be the dumbest MF out there. Most people have the smarts to get a feel, set something up and monkey branch. I say this with revulsion, but this guy just YOLO'd his way to a breakup. The other girl was never interested in him. Either he is completely delusional and misread the signs, or he thought he was such a catch that she possibly couldn't say no. And now here he is, dumped by both women and crying about his fate. OP, you dodged a nuclear missile with this one. He almost certainly viewed OP as low value and himself as high value. Ugh, hate those terms. He kept an eye out for someone who he thought was more worthy of the person he believed himself to be. When he thought he found her and had a chance, he dumped OP, because of course this woman would want him. Only she didn't, so he goes back to OP, assuming she'd fall in line because he was a catch, and they'd been together for so long. Guy even assumes that she wouldn't question anything, and would be oh so grateful to be able to prove herself to someone of his caliber. Cue her telling him off. You're being stalked. Change your routine. Yeah, I'm gonna do this, as I run at 6 a.m. so not a lot of people around. Gonna miss that coffee shop though. They made the best breakfast wraps, but I'm not taking any chances and I'll go grocery shopping with my cousin. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to repay my ex-husband for the college tuition he paid 4 years ago? So, for some background, my ex-husband and I ended things over 20 years ago. When our son was 2, he stepped out. At the time, I was a stay-at-home mom and going to nursing school full-time. He was paying for my schooling. After he left, I asked him if he would keep paying for my school so I could finish with no debt. He agreed, saying it was the least he could do. A few months after that, he got his affair partner pregnant. Once she got pregnant, she demanded he stop paying for my schooling. It was a fifth of their income, and she said that money needed to go towards their new baby. He refused and kept paying for the remaining year and a half I had left. Over the years, I continued my education, and now I'm a nurse practitioner. I do well for myself, and I never remarried. On to the problem, my son called me and told me he and his wife are expecting. I was ecstatic. I asked if I could come over sometime during the weekend to give them some things, his favorite stuffed animal from childhood, a check, and some other small sentimental items. He said yes, so I went over earlier today. I came by and gave him everything, including a check for a few $1,000s for baby stuff, co-pays, the nursery, or anything else they might need. My son and his wife thanked me and said the money would be very helpful. My ex-husband and his wife came over a little while later. They surprised them with dinner and didn't know I'd be there, and saw the check on the counter. My ex's wife asked about it, and I said, oh well, I wanted to help out where I could. Everything's so expensive nowadays. I was really just trying to be polite, but I don't think it was any of her business. This woman had the audacity to say, well, maybe since you have all this money now, you can finally pay us back all that money you took when you went to college. I was dumbfounded. My ex has literally never brought up me paying him back. He's always said it was the least he could do for both me and our son. My ex has done very well for himself in his career. I didn't see how or why they'd need the money, so I asked them, do you guys need the money or something? My ex said no, and she said, of course not. It's about principle. I told her I will absolutely not be paying them back for college tuition from over 20 years ago, especially when she ended up in our marital home while I was living in a small apartment, barely making ends meet for years after I initially finished school. I've never been bitter or mean. I've always been civil since our kids are siblings, but my blood was boiling. I left shortly after that. According to my son, this has been a point of contention in their marriage. She's brought it up a few times over the years in front of him, and she's now insisting to him that he needs to convince me to finally pay back what they're owed. The biggest issue is that now the whole family is involved. I got calls from 3 separate family members saying I need to get over myself and just pay it back. So, am I the a-hole here? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. He created a mess. Did he pay alimony? Did he take it off his taxes? We didn't have any court-ordered alimony or child support while I was in school. He just paid for the school since it was so expensive. I'm not sure if he took it off his taxes. He just gave me the money every month. Once the divorce was finalized shortly after I finished school, we made arrangements for child support but no alimony. Tell her it was the adultery tax or that her husband was ensuring that his son would have a good life with either parent. Not the a-hole. This is exactly what my ex said. He wanted to make sure we could both afford things for our son. It was in a way a good investment for him because we went half on basically every activity he was in, his first car, and his college tuition. We definitely couldn't have done that if I only had a high school education. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to accept that my wife actually wants a divorce after I said we're separating 4 months ago? My wife, 30 female, and I, 33 male, have been married for almost 10 years. We have 2 kids, 5 and 3. I own a restaurant in our city, and she is an elementary school teacher. 4 months ago, We had a very explosive argument that ended with me saying that we should separate. I told my family that we were separating that day, and then she would not let me in our house. I've had to live with my parents, and she will barely let me see my kids. I have tried to be more involved with helping the kids with bedtime and such when she lets me, but she is so cold to me and doesn't seem to want me around. I have been begging her for us to go to couples therapy, but she doesn't seem to want to at all. I want to work on our marriage, and she doesn't. Fast forward to now, she wants a divorce. She has a lawyer and told me that I should get one. She says I have not been a good partner to her for years. She said she is tired of doing everything in the house and with the kids. But she chose that. She is only a part-time teacher, working half a day, and I run a whole business myself. I have a very demanding job that can involve long hours. It's a small business, so I have a lot of tasks, and it is demanding and exhausting. I usually just get home, shower, and go to sleep, since I have to get up at 4 a.m. the next day. I'm working so hard to provide for my family, and now the whole thing is falling apart. I love my family, and I don't want my kids to go through their parents divorcing. I want her to put in the effort, go to therapy, and work together so our marriage doesn't fail. So, am I the a-hole? You do sound like a massive a-hole. Absolutely ridiculous to say we should separate, then get your panties in a bunch when she wants to make it permanent. What a stupid gamble that's cost you your family. Your spiel about doing no work around the house because you run a business does you no favors. Makes you look even more stupid. He also claims he wants to help with bedtime with the kids and all that jazz. But he also says he works all day, gets home, showers, and gets up again at 4 a.m. There was no way he was helping or parenting prior to, if what he says is true. I try to help in the evenings, but I have catering meals to take a lot in the evenings. I try to stay up to talk to her in the evenings, but she's usually gone to bed early too. Why in the world would you tell your whole family personal business that same day and expect your wife to react any different? You said you wanted to be separated. She gave you that. She probably realized it's much easier to be alone and only take care of the kids. She probably realized that it makes no difference to her whether OP is there or not at all. OP writes that he comes home in the evening, showers and goes to sleep to wake up at 4 a.m. to go to work. The most she probably has to do is wash his clothes. And when there's an argument, his solution is to separate, not try to lessen his workload and be home more, but to go to his parents and tell everyone. So is this counseling supposed to be for him? She's probably happy that she won't have to hear an alarm clock at 4 a.m.